7th of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. So, a couple of mundane things to begin with. VMware has released patches for some vulnerabilities in the Workstation and Fusion products. One of these flaws allows a malicious actor with local administrative privileges on the virtual machine to execute code on that machine's VMX process, which actually runs on the host. So that one's quite severe. CVSS score of 9.3. A couple of others, CVSS scores of 7.1, 7.3, 7.7. So VMware have been busily working in the background to patch these things. Well done for them for that. However, if you are running Workstation or Fusion products, strongly recommend you take a look at the article and you apply patches if you haven't done so already. Also in the category of just patch it, APC. APC are the people that make things like uninterruptible power supplies. UPSs, home user UPSs, corporate UPSs. Years and years ago, I remember installing them in the bottom of racks in data centers back in the day when people actually had data centers and not just clouds. Let me see. Yes, so there are various vulnerabilities that they have addressed. So and it's the usual sort of stuff, PowerShoot serial shutdown process, blah blah. Two of the vulnerabilities they're addressing have a CVSS score of 9.8. The other one has a score of 7.5. So you can see these are fairly serious vulnerabilities. It's vulnerability in the monitoring systems. So the APC Easy UPS online monitoring software and the Schneider Electric Easy UPS online monitoring software. Bearing in mind, Schneider Electric bought APC a while back, so they are very closely tied together. If you're using either of those products on Windows, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2016, 2019, or 2022, check out for the patches and upgrades because you need to. Thousands of Apache superset servers are exposed to remote code execution attacks. So Apache Superset is an open source data visualization and exploration tool that was originally developed for Airbnb, apparently. But it has become a kind of top level project at the Apache Software Foundation. It contains, so the code as shipped uses a default, what they call a Flask secret key, to sign authentication session cookies. So unless you've changed the default key, it's possible for attackers to forge session cookies with administrative privileges that appear to be correctly signed. Okay, so the Apache documentation does tell admins to change the keys. However, Horizon 3 have done some research into this, and they say that the default configuration is currently detectable on the internet for over 2,000 servers. And these range from universities, corporations, big and small, government organizations, so on and so forth. So if you are using Apache Superset, I would recommend that you go back and check that your Flask secret key has been changed from the default. It's a good article in Bleeping Computer that explains what to look for and what you need to do, so we will link that one out. A China-linked APT group, variously known as Alloy, Taurus, Gallium, Softcell. Yeah, okay, the names are all over the place, aren't they? Has taken to targeting Linux systems with a new variant of the ping-pull backdoor. This particular backdoor on Linux hasn't been seen, certainly hasn't been documented before, although it's possible that it's been associated with other groups in other places, but it's a little bit uncertain at the moment. This particular APT is known to focus on telecommunication companies operating across Asia, Europe, and Africa. Although there is some evidence that they are expanding operations into financial institutions and government identities. So ping-pull was first noticed by Unit 42 in June last year, and is a particularly difficult to detect backdoor. Leverages ICMP for C2 communications, which many years ago, when I was learning about TCP, IP, UDP, IP in general, I do remember asking my then mentor, how could anybody possibly use ICMP for anything malicious? And got a very long and very detailed lecture. So yeah, don't make the assumption that because it's ICMP, it's potentially harmless. It might not be. So that's quite clever, though. Although a lot of organisations are restrictive about what ICMP they do allow around their organization. This particular one can use that, or HTTPS or other TCP ports for C2 communications, depending on what finds its way out. So watch out for this. It is now targeting Linux machines. Security Affairs have got an article. I came across this on Security Affairs article. Good explanation of what to look for there, and some indicators of compromise that you might want to build into your SIEM. Next on the list, getting on to some more interesting things here. Microsoft is looking into complaints that the Edge browser is leaking all URLs to Bing. This, excuse me, this is a curious function within Edge. I was saying curious. I'm using, trying to think of nice words here. But apparently, Bing has the ability, if configured to do so, to send certain information up to. Edge has the ability to send certain information to Bing as part of trying to help you to come across social media sites. So it's now let me see. I'm trying to find the name of the feature. Yeah, the feature's called Collections, and it offers suggestions for online creators that users might want to follow. It does this by sending certain sorts of information to Bing, and then Bing is searching for similar sorts of things. Okay, that in itself is okay. Bet you didn't know that it was doing that, though. There is some there. Yeah, there is an indication now that it is sending all the URLs that you have in your URL bar up to Bing. I don't think Microsoft ever intended it to do that. It could well be a bug, but it is definitely that is absolutely definitely leaking information that I'm sure you would not necessarily want to give to Microsoft. So whilst Microsoft are looking into this, You can switch this off by going to the Privacy Search and Services tab on the settings page and untick the Show Suggestions to Follow Creators in Microsoft Edge, which apparently is near the bottom of the page. Haven't looked to see whether it's ticked by default or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, being a slightly obscure setting that you wouldn't necessarily go and find deliberately to switch on. So until Microsoft has looked into this, switch that off. And also bear in mind, you may, as I was, be unaware that it was doing that in the first place, and it may not be something that you would want regardless. So definitely worth switching that off. Finally, from me today, came across a couple of articles, absolutely fascinating. I'm sure this is going to be the thing all over the cyber news today. Earlier this week, we talked about Google Google providing the ability to back up 2FA or to sync 2FA codes to the cloud. Idea being, I do remember being a little bit reticent about this when we spoke about it earlier this week. Yes, it provides some operational resilience if previously, if you've lost your phone or whatever, you've lost your 2FA solution, and it can be a right royal pain in the arse to fix that. Down to even some sites that once you switched on 2FA, they can't even switch it off for you or refuse to. So you've basically lost the account, so on and so forth. So yeah, okay, I can see why operationally it may be a good idea to sync the codes via the cloud. However, Google has made an absolute fist of this. Researchers have discovered that in the process of syncing to the cloud, there is no encryption applied. So if you've got visibility of the network, you can actually see all the secret keys going up to the cloud. Also, indications are that because they were not encrypted at source, they are not encrypted at rest. So that raises the possibility that Google administrators or third parties or potentially malicious actors will be able to read those secret keys. Now, just to put that in context, once you've got the secret key for a 2FA solution, you can then basically configure your own authenticator app to mimic the original one. So which basically gives you the ability to generate the same 2FA keys that the legitimate user would have. So basically, this massively undermines the security of using Google Authenticator 2FA. Recommendation is don't sync to the cloud. If you have already synced to the cloud, okay, that's going to be a bit painful to undo if you're worried, or if the stuff is particularly sensitive that you're protecting. You may well have to go in, disable 2FA, and then re-enable it again on the websites that you're particularly bothered about, because you can't be certain who may have captured those packets, or you can't be certain who on Google's servers may possibly have been able to look at those secret keys. In a separate article, and this time again from Bleeping Computer, there are claims that Google is going to bring end-to-end encryption to Google Authenticator cloud backups. However, as they quite rightly point out, it's not there at the moment, and they have there are screenshots demonstrating this. Somebody, a researcher, has actually gone out and captured the network traffic, and oh dear, yeah, you're in trouble. So I think this is a massive own goal for Google. I think a lot of people have relied on Google Authenticator as being the de facto 2FA code, time-based code application. right now, I think this makes them look like idiots. They should know better. So basically, yeah, if you've already synced, I would recommend you go and disable 2FA and re-enable it again, like I said, on any services where security of 2FA actually matters to you. Yeah, what a mess. Okay, well, that's it from me today. I hope you have a good Thursday, and I will speak to you again tomorrow morning.